what did you think of the season finale of Ahsoka? I think it's fair to say that the two of us have been a little disappointed with Ahsoka, maybe
Yeah.
just a little disappointed. But what are your thoughts?
Yes. I could sum up Ahsoka this way: the entire series. It's two chess moves. It's Ahsoka and gang going to one side of the galaxy to be replaced by the people on the other side of the galaxy coming back to their side. They do a complete swap, and this whole series is about Sabine. It's not about Ahsoka. And so, look, this there are things in this series that I will call the final death knell for Lucas Star Wars. It is now officially Disney Star Wars, and Lucas Star Wars can be closed up, placed in a vault, and buried deep down, or frozen with Walt's head. That's where we are. And the reason I say that is there's certain things in this series that basically are replacements of the original Star Wars. For example, in I think it was episode 4, there was a lightsaber training session with Sabine, which reflected Luke Skywalker's lightsaber training. They refer to all the events of the Death Star of both Death Stars as the Great War. So they're not even going to acknowledge that. Anakin is completely replaced Darth Vader. So you're going to see the memory of Darth Vader go away. And I don't know if you caught it, but do you remember on the Sabine and Ahsoka are outside, and they talk briefly about her coming to the planet, going with Thrawn to this planet, and she says, "Hey, your plan worked." But at one point she says, "I'm sorry." Sabine says to Ahsoka, "I'm sorry." And do you remember how Ahsoka responded to her?
No, I don't remember that.
Okay, so Sabine says, "I'm sorry," and Ahsoka responds, "I know."
Oh no!
Yeah.
No!
There are just little
You know
things.
what? That went right by me. It's so stupid.
Oh my
Oh
god!
my
It's
god!
like, it's again, they've basically taken this series and replaced little things that you loved about the original Star Wars, and says now Disney Star Wars has claimed these things, and Lucas Star Wars no longer matters anymore. And that's kind of my feeling right now after seeing this. The last thing I'll say, and I've heard it mentioned on many other shows, but this was an 8-episode waste of time that could have been summed up in 1 or 2 episodes, because nothing happens except everyone trades places, and we're left with somewhat of a unsatisfying ending. There's no sense of closure. There's no sense of, do I care what happens next? I don't care what happens next. And I have to believe that the audience that has been watching the show, let's say half of the audience of Rebels watch the show. I don't see those numbers as being big enough to keep the series going. And I don't know what Disney is doing if they keep doing it. So that's my general thought about the series and about this episode.
Well, I would echo everything you just said. I think it was a complete waste of time. This was a setup for stuff that will come at some point in the future, which is going to be Ahsoka season 2, and or a movie that connects
the Filoni movie, right?
The Filoni movie that will connect all the Disney Plus series into one movie. Just make the movie. It felt that there. I'll go through sort of the main. I have 3 or 4 main things that I think make this show very weak, and that is the story is not driven by character. There's a lack of understanding of exactly what we know what some of the characters want, but all of those things are so dumb. Sabine wants to save Ezra. What does Ahsoka want? To stop Thrawn. But how does this tie into who they are as a person? To contrast this with One Piece, or Opla One Piece live action, which you and I both, or I saw. I don't know if you've seen it yet.
No,
You haven't seen. Yeah. One Piece live action on Netflix is an achievement. It's every one of the main characters, you get their backstory, including stories of trauma each experienced as a child that ties into who they are as a person. there's no backstory to this. The backstory is supposed to be Rebels and the Clone Wars, which frankly, most people have not seen. I'm sorry. If you're a fan of it, bravo. And if you like it, that's I don't have any problem with anyone who actually likes the show. I'm glad that you're enjoying it, but for the most of us that aren't paying attention, or I only really pay attention when it's something big, it's a movie, or maybe a live action series. You've got my attention. Even though I haven't seen all the Marvel Disney Plus shows, I just haven't. The story is not driven by character. And you see when, and also the writing is just plain bad. Why is the writing bad? Here's why. Because Disney themselves, Disney Lucasfilm, under this umbrella, Disney Lucasfilm, Marvel, though they are the ones making these series for Disney Plus, right? So Lucasfilm just started a TV division within Lucasfilm. Marvel, same thing. They started Marvel Studios, which makes the movies and the TV shows. What other streaming services do is that they contract with outside production companies. And those production companies, they owe everything to the studios, not only to be on budget, but to deliver a great show, and a show that, while all the conflicts may not be resolved in a first season, they'll at least, like, maybe they'll leave something hanging, but you've got an entire story that plays out to a satisfying conclusion where you're excited to see what happens next. One Piece came to a conclusion that resolved all of the main conflicts in season 1, while at the same time there were other things that were teased, or other conflicts that are for some time far in the future, but were not a part of the season 1 arc. Disney does not know how to do television. Lucasfilm doesn't know how to make television, and Marvel doesn't know how to make television, because they started these divisions within their own companies. If you've got an outside, if you look at most television that is produced, and I'm saying for the streaming services, this is also true of network television. There are tons of logos you see at the beginning and or the ends of shows. And sometimes some of them become really recognizable, right? Like Bad Robot, that little, robot animation that's at the end of the show. And some of these production companies become really, really renowned because they do really great television. Look for those logos. You don't see them. They're figuring out how to make television while making television. And that's a terrible way of doing it. That's why so many other shows are produced by production companies, and that's what they do. That is what they solely do, is they make great shows that people come back to, and they are beholden to their financiers, which are the studio, to make those shows. Someone asked me recently, I'm not going to say who, someone you all know, how do I sell a show to Netflix? Someone asked me, a YouTuber that I know, how do I sell it? You don't sell a show to Netflix. Netflix doesn't care what Alan Ng show that Alan Ng is trying to sell. It's not Alan Ng. It's not. I'm using you as an example because you're right there. Sorry, Alan.
Yeah, I don't make TV shows, so
no.
I'm good.
But what I'm saying is Netflix isn't going to buy a show from Alan Ng from Orange County. Netflix will buy a show from a production company that they've had experience working with, that they know will be responsible with tens of millions of dollars, that they know will meet deadlines, not just for their show, but for the international versions of their show. The post-production process, which is why most of these shows are finished shooting production-wise a year in advance. You've got a year of post-production, which is special effects, music, additional dialogue, recording, editing, and international versions of everything. Netflix knows how to do it because they have hired the best production companies to do that. And Disney wants to own the process. So what it's doing is it's costing them by having them make mistakes, not just in the storytelling, but I am sure in the process of making these shows. So they all cost too much money. There's a triangle with project management. And I wrote about this in a book I did years ago called The Ultimate Film Festival Survival Guide. Here's the triangle: good, fast, cheap. Pick two. You only get two. Unless it's a luxury, maybe, and you're working for Disney. You can get good in terms of quality. You can get fast, but it's going to cost a lot of money. Or you can get cheap and you may be sacrificing on good production value, etc. Good, fast, cheap. That is a project management, like it's the triangle that everybody knows. I apply it to filmmaking, and you can apply it to other types of project management. Good, fast, cheap, pick two. I tend to go with cheap and good, which is why my documentary, Attack of the Doc, took like 3 years. Part of it was the pandemic, and then the other part was G4 coming back. Those two things were like wrenches. But if I could choose one, I will choose good and cheap over fast, because I know that what I create is going to live longer. And so if it took a year longer than it should have, that's the way it is. But it was done inexpensively, and it was also done to the quality level, that I'm comfortable with. So remember that when it comes to project management. This show, so you've got the characters aren't driving the story because we don't understand what each character wants, right? What they really want. Not, I want to save Ezra. We did that already. I want to stop Thrawn. Good luck. What's your plan? We never hear what the plan is. We never heard what their plan was. It was to go on the ship and stop them, and they fail, but not even in a really interesting way. They just fail.
They just failed. They ran out of time.
They ran out of time. Thrawn left. So there you go. What does Thrawn want? What does Thrawn? The writing of Thrawn is so bad in this show. I don't know what the stakes are, why it matters. And Thrawn, as was written here in the Timothy Zahn Heir to the Empire novels, which I've read, and I just recently ordered the audio book versions because I want to reread it to remind myself of how good it was. My memory of it was Thrawn was so powerful. He was this supreme intellect that would evaluate a civilization, discover through their artwork. He would study the art, the popular art of the planet, the dominant culture. He would look at their art and understand what they feared. And he would use the fears of an advanced civilization against the people of that planet. And he would conquer them using their own fears by studying their art. It was so well described in the book and so chilling. You were genuinely frightened. I mean, frightened on the level of a Darth Vader. The way they introduced Thrawn to the Thrawn, and he's kind of like walking through them. Why is he walking? Is he going to a meeting? I don't know. Also, he doesn't seem particularly intimidating. A better introduction to Thrawn, using what I know about the character, could have been something like this. Okay, use your imagination for a second, knowing what Thrawn is. Thrawn is sitting at the command center. He's annoyed by an underling who announces to him something along the lines of, Grand Admiral, that's the third planet you've conquered in this system. Why are we wasting time and resources conquering these small planets? Practice. Some chilling line. He dispenses with a, you get to see the real cost. You see a civilization die and be taken into captivity or something. You see the real cost, the threat, like what the stakes are, that if he returns to the galactic empire we know and love, right, and launches a full-scale assault on Coruscant, he could destroy the universe as we know it. As it is, that we already know that's not going to happen because of the First Order. What we're seeing is the seeds of the First Order. And we know that Grand Admiral Thrawn didn't survive because I've seen the Star Wars sequels. So it's a little disheartening. But there's so many other ways you could have. Think of some of the great scenes in Star Wars. A scene where a bunch of generals and commanders are sitting around a desk on the Death Star talking. It's riveting. It's riveting. Darth Vader kind of tortures a guy, toying with him for fun. Even a scene in episode 1, which I think is really aged well. Episode 1, where a cloaked Darth Sidious and Darth Maul They're just having a conversation. It's a minute scene. At last, we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last, we will have revenge. A line. I get chills thinking about it. There wasn't one line in Ahsoka that defined Thrawn as a character, told us what the stakes were, or even told us what the reasons were. You will get revenge for their, something along the lines of revenge for what they did to the Emperor. There's so much. Thrawn has a vendetta. He's got something to prove, and he wants revenge on the rebels that drove him from his home. And none of that is present. The second thing is just dumb, convenient story points. We're going to get to your comments in a moment. Right now, we're talking spoilers. So I'm just going to, if anyone
sorry,
cares.
folks. Sorry, folks. If you hadn't had a chance to see the entire Ahsoka series, we're going to spoil it for you.
Well, we'll spoil the ending of this.
The beautiful ending that made everyone cry?
Well, first of all, I'd like your take on the ending. I'm talking about the final events when they go to the Thrawn's Star Destroyer and what happened there. What I want to hear your thoughts, Alan, and then want to skip to mine only because I've been talking too much. So, and I like to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't know. Like, I don't know what Alan's opinions are on things when we go on a stream together.
Yeah, wait till we talk about Loki. You're gonna love it.
Oh my God, I can't wait. All right. Your thoughts on and the third act of the final episode. Let's focus on the third act and kind of where things ended. So we're in spoiler territory now.
Yeah, let me bring I wrote down some lines here because from your last point about the it's time for us to be revealed, it's time for revenge. Those are great dual lines here, and so throughout the series, throughout this episode, I've noticed all Ahsoka does is all her dialogue is basically some seemingly profound thoughts or response to what someone says. For example, Sabine says regarding Ezra, I never thought I'd see him again. And Ahsoka responds, you might not have if you had chosen differently. Put that on a mug.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ezra says, sorry to state the obvious, but this is going to slow us down a bit. And then Ahsoka responds, only if we let it.
Yeah, that's right. Some of the dialogue was so bad. I was just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like,
here's another one.
It wasn't memorable.
Yeah, here's another one. It wasn't safe to come here alone. You're not alone anymore.
I feel like a lot of these lines seem like placeholder. You know what I mean? They seem like
no. It seems like an amateur writer who's getting off on what he thinks are clever lines. And for some reason, no one in Lucasfilm or Disney is willing to tell this guy that your dialogue sucks and that it needs a rewrite. As much as we didn't want the writer's room demands met, this show needed a writer's room because there was one guy writing it and he doesn't know how to write. I sent a super chat to you guys earlier today, but did anyone see Dave Filoni on the picket line, or was he too afraid to be associated with real writers? This guy.
That's right. On the Nooner, you sent the super chat in.
Yeah, I mean, look, watch the documentary that comes with the Ahsoka series, the one that sets it up, because half of the documentary is about, Dave did such a good job with Clone Wars. This was Dave did a great job with The Mandalorian and bringing in Ahsoka. It's time to give Dave his opportunity, and they gave Dave his opportunity, and this is what we got. And you realize he wasn't ready. He was not ready, and it's. I look. There's still more of this coming. And there's no indication that the quality of this is going to get better. Maybe Andor. The thing that will say something about Andor is we criticized Andor a lot. We talked about timing. We talked about pacing. Right. If they fix it in the second season, it will say whether they're listening to us or not, or whether they're just going to continue to do whatever they want. It's the arrogance of Disney right now to say that because we made it, you need to watch it, as opposed to the other way around, saying we need you to watch our stuff So we're going to write things that you are interested in. And so I have, we'll see with Andor, but I've no faith in any other project coming out of Lucasfilm.
Yeah, I agree. I just like I again, it's the arrogance of them thinking that they can produce television when it's much more difficult than you would think. It's far more difficult to do quality television. It's so
Yeah.
so there you are.
And
But
you talk about Disney, Disney Channel was successful for a very long time because they knew their audience and they wrote to their audience. They don't know the Star Wars audience at all. They don't know the Marvel audience, and certainly don't know the Muppet audience either. So
I love the Muppets.
I know they've ruined everything I love, Disney, including themselves.
I think part of it is like a lot of those lines in the show felt very placeholder to me. A lot of the lines were like, this is my first draft of the script. I will go back to that, write something more clever and have it be memorable. But I can't, there's so many memorable lines, actually, oddly, from the prequels. Think back. Okay, think back to the prequels. There are lines in there that are quotable. What is your favorite line from the Star Wars sequels? I bypassed the compressor. You're not going to put that on a t-shirt. It's not a memorable lines, memorable moments. It just doesn't exist. It doesn't exist at all. It's disheartening. Now, let's talk about the actual endings, the other parts of the third act. Sabine gets her Jedi powers.
Yeah, Sabine. Apparently, StarWars.com. I haven't checked it yet, so I'm reading what I read on the internet. But according to StarWars.com, Sabine is now officially a Jedi.
Is the actress who plays Sabine is Asian, right?
Yes.
It's part Asian. I don't know.
Yeah, probably part, but who knows nowadays?
Aren't you happy?
Yes, I am. No, and I appreciate all the Asian references that Dave Filoni's brought into it. He refers to a Ronin at one point. During the lightsaber training session, he's playing, some nice Japanese music in the background. So I'm appreciative that Asia has spread across the entire galaxy, and that our culture will live on beyond Earth itself.
Well, I mean, and there's also that Asian X-wing pilot that is honestly, I don't think that guy's an actor.
No, he is. He was in Kim's Convenience, a really great series starring Simu Liu.
He's so not good. Look.
He's a comedian, and they're not letting him be funny.
Typical.
Yep.
So I'm gonna tickle you with my lightsaber. I just think, I don't think that guy's very good. He kind of takes me out of every scene. It's like he's just doing a different acting style, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he in Kim's Convenience, he plays the Korean father with a very heavy accent.
Oh my God, I've seen the show.
Yeah.
I've seen the show with the dad. Remember the one, the gay discount episode?
Yeah.
Look up.
It's in the first season, by the way.
First season, there's an episode called Gay. I don't know if it's called that, but the dad ends up giving everyone a gay discount. So if you're gay, you get a discount at his store. So
yeah, I mean, that show is so much better than Fresh Off the Boat was.
Well, there you are. But no. Okay, so so Sabine is now a Jedi. I don't know. It just felt kind of shoehorned in. I don't have as big a problem with it as some other people do. It just seems like everything's on easy mode now. It just doesn't matter. Everything is just plot convenience. But here's the thing that bugs me. So they jumped. What was the plan? They were jumping to the ship. Sabine was going to jump, but she stays behind to help Ahsoka, who then dispenses with.
Well, that was the sacrifice. I think it was clear that she was sacrificing her destiny to stay with Ahsoka.
But she abandoned Ezra, and then what's his plan? He's one guy on a Star Destroyer.
Well, but okay, so this is it. Because we haven't seen Rebels, we don't understand the full impact of who Ezra is, and I've come to realize that Ezra is Space Jesus.
Right.
He is the Messiah, and that he is going to save the universe. So it was more important that Ezra got back home than it was for Ahsoka and Sabine. And this is me just thinking about, this guy must be really important for them to travel all this way to risk letting Thrawn loose, which they did.
Right.
So Ezra has to be space Jesus. He has to have superpowers, the power to heal, the power to die and resurrect in 3 days, and the power to die for the galaxy's sins. And so I think Ezra is the key, and you don't need to have seen Rebels to figure that one out.
Yeah. It just well,
Not
okay.
buying it.
Let's go through then what happens at the very end. So Ezra's on that ship. He dispenses with a stormtrooper. You can see that he's gonna like do an old. This is the old trick. You just dress in the stormtrooper uniform. That's an oldie but a goodie. It's fine, whatever. It's happened in Star Wars. We've seen it now happen a lot in The Last Jedi. In this, whatever.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Again,
That's fine.
they're commandeering, appropriating old Star Wars for new Star Wars. Yes,
But what's the plan? Meaning, I understood in previous Star Wars movies what the plan was, or what the circumstances were, or what the stakes were. It seemed very clear in previous. I'm speaking about the movies and not the sequels necessarily, because I have too many problems with that. But like, was their plan like, look, if we take out the engine on Thrawn's ship, we can prevent him from entering our galaxy. We must do that. Like, in a way to do that more, just do it, say those words, but more elegantly than I just said. Just say those words, but like something along the lines of, tell me what the plan is so I can understand the goal. I don't care if they succeed or not. I want to know what the stakes are, what they're trying to do. None of that was ever explained. We have to stop Thrawn, so we're going to the ship. To do what?
well,
You've got
remember
only
there are boxes in the storage unit of the starship, of the Star
Yes.
Destroyer. Those boxes are really important. I don't know what's in them. I don't know what he's going to do with them, but it's really important that they go across the galaxy.
Yeah.
And again, this is the problem: is they're Dave Filoni knows what is going on. He just doesn't know how to communicate that to people. And the problem is we are the ones getting blamed for not understanding his story.
Well, everything is being dragged out. That's my just
Yeah.
There are no payoffs. It's setups with very little payoff. And it's really frustrating to watch the show. In addition to the fact that it feels so drawn out. Everything's just drawn out. Like, just throw out this. If it's an idea you're saving, don't save your ideas. Throw them out there, and then it forces you to come up with new ideas, new stakes, whatever, but have a plan. So Ezra goes on that ship. Somehow Ezra escapes and returns to his galaxy to see Hera, right? Hera, who never uses these goggles that are on her head in the live action. Has she ever worn them? Is she just
you've got to understand that those goggles are important because it keeps her headpiece on. Because
right.
without it, her tails would fall off. And then
she'd have to go through even more makeup. Elizabeth, and I don't have a problem with any of the actors. Actually, I think most of the actors are pretty good in the show, including Rosario Dawson, who I think is just getting some bad direction and also
bad dialogue
and bad scripts. But actually, I don't have a problem with any of the actors, frankly.
Yeah, he used to be.
Even Ezra, I think, is fine. The guy who plays Ezra is fine. So he gets back to their galaxy, but he left his friends behind, so they just switched. So now Sabine, Ahsoka are they're trapped now in this other faraway galaxy. So now Ezra's there, and it's what was their point? What was accomplished? Even if they don't stop Thrawn and get away with their lives, fine, I'm okay with that. That's fine. But the fact that like it's dumb. So now they're in that other galaxy. Who cares?
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. We've invested 6 weeks or 8 weeks, 2 months watching this, and that's where we're left off. they don't respect our time.
Right.
Uh,
Well,
and people who look, uh, people who say that, you know, I do not understand how people can say this is a great series. I just don't. I don't, and I think that a lot of it has to do with the type of stories these Gen Z kids and millennials have grown up with. They don't understand what good storytelling is. They've
okay.
never watched classics.
Well, there's
Uh,
no subtext at all. Paul
yeah.
Chato talks about that a lot. But what do you think about the use of the Force in this show and how they've changed the Force? The thing is, here's the thing. They've thrown in so many things that are ridiculous. They say, like, in writing, you sort of build a world, you stick to the
Mhm.
rules that you create, and maybe in the third act you can throw out something that we haven't seen before. But you've got
Or you could push those limits. You can go beyond the limits of the
right.
rule you set up to make it interesting.
Well,
But
you've got like hyperspace space whales. You've got zombies are part of the Star Wars universe. You have witches. Like, what is this show even? And then just messing with the
to
Force.
move objects with your hands, to get lucky, so to speak. What is the force? We talked about.
Are you really wearing like tidy whities like that underwear when I force pulled them from you?
That day I was, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's
But
good.
I still haven't gotten them back to put them back on.
All right. All right. I'll
But,
give them to you. I'll give them to you
okay,
later.
thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Glanuccio, for an amazing new fun video for us to show. But back to back to just the fact that they're throwing all this stuff in.
Of course,
The
yeah.
third act kind of leaves us like they're either gonna do season 2 of Ahsoka or they're gonna go right into the Filoni movie. And will people know and will they care? And just as you and I have had issues, or at least I have had issues,
Mhm.
because I only saw season 1 of Rebels. I saw the Gendy Tartakovsky Clone Wars. I watched some of Clone Wars, but I'm a guy that likes this stuff, right? So um
Yeah.
I'm not keeping up. Imagine someone going to the movies to see a new Star Wars movie with all this backstory. You need to have seen Rebels, Clone
Mhm.
Wars, and Ahsoka, and Boba Fett, and there's too much.
Yeah. And then give us $20 so you can go see this movie. Yeah, I mean, would you spend the $20?
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, you're
look,
asking a lot of an audience that doesn't understand what you're doing, and and you talk about the Force. Um, I've from Kenobi, I was just saying, the rules of the Force has changed. The nature of the Force has changed, and it's almost undefinable. It's more, it's become psychic powers. You just think it and it happens. That's what the Force is. You know, early on in the first in episode 4 and episode 1, it's just this idea of a living force that flowed through everything, and being able, and people were more sensitive to be able to attach themselves to it. But now it's psychic powers, and it made me wonder. Thrawn had spent 10 years, however long, on this planet. If everyone has access to the Force, rather than have zombie stormtroopers, why not have force powered stormtroopers?
oh,
Yeah.
it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
At least they did. At least the chairs and all the spaceships were good. So,
Yeah, let's be fair. That was a transport. You know, you don't expect them to have
fine,
high quality chairs nailed
fine.
screwed in.
All right. Final thoughts on this, and then we're gonna go to your comments and questions, and we'll respond to those. Final thoughts on Ahsoka, the full season.
Waste of
Full,
time.
full yeah.
Waste of time. From where you started and where you got to in this season, it's a complete waste of time. You just swap characters, the location of characters,
Yeah.
and and you leave more questions. And again, if you haven't watched everything, there's no point in watching this. And I'm pretty sure if you hadn't watched everything, you dropped out at best episode 2.
Okay. Yeah, I unfortunately I have to agree. I feel like you've got to like just cut to the chase.
Mhm.
Raise the stakes. Tell me why Thrawn is such a threat. I have not seen it. I have not seen Thrawn be a threat. And that scene I described earlier in the show about Thrawn just thinking it's nothing to conquer a planet. Yeah, yes, we used to do things with Death Stars, but you know, this is how I do
Mhm.
things. I do things maybe differently than the previous administration. And then the final thing, Anakin showing up at the end with this proud look that's right out of Return of the Jedi. Oh, look at my little apprentice, how she's doing. And there's Ghost Anakin. I thought that was just terrible. It was god awful. What did you think?
Yeah, it was to make you cry, and I'm sure when Dave Filoni wrote that scene, in his mind it was, this is going to be the greatest thing ever, and I made it, and the world will love me for it.
Yeah,
Thanks, Dave.
I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced, and I'm just disappointed. Look, and to be clear, I want to love Star Wars. I want to love it.
Hmm.
I want Star Wars to be about something. I want the original Star Wars to me, and this is why it resonated with so many people, and it's why we're still talking about it now. It resonated because it was about something. It was about the human condition and and our story as a civilization and a people and where we've gotten to, and it's also a morality tale. It was very inspired by Christianity and many religions,
Many
Buddhism.
religions.
The Force was inspired by religions. Now it's just a set of powers you select, like on a video game. I will use force healing. I will now use jumping. I'm gonna use, like, it's stupid. It's stupid. It needs to be about more than just more Star Wars. It has to tell us a story that resonates, across anyone. That's why Star Wars was so relatable, and this does not accomplish that, unfortunately. Let's go to
It's
your
sad.
super.
I'll just say it's sad because they had the tools, and the assets to make something great, and they've squandered it.
Yeah, I really don't have a problem with many of the special effects. I think the special effects, the production value,
Mhm.
the music, the casting, the big problem with this and almost everything, it's the writing. I do
Yep.
have a problem with some of the direction because I think it's weak, but with good writing, man, that's the least. I mean, television is a writer's medium. Film, theatrically released big movies, is a director's medium. You've heard people say this. It's a writer and producer medium, frankly, for television.
Mhm.
Producer's medium, writer, but and big budget Hollywood movies, that's directors, fine. Um, but man, the weakness is the writing. Mike Dude for 1999. The statues Balin was on were the Mortis gods. The son, embodiment of the dark side. The daughter, head missing, embodiment of the light side. And the father, the balance. Lucas was heavily involved in the Mortis arc in the Clone Wars. That actually sounds really interesting. I would not have known that because no
Yeah.
one told me.
I'll say I'm glad I found out through a super chat, but I wish I had found out in the show.
That's a YouTube short right there.
Yeah, there you go. No,
Uh,
but what was the okay? The other thing, the title of of the episode. Do you remember what it was?
yes,
Yeah, the Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord. Um, this goes back to your chair and ladder reference.
right.
They're using modern terminologies, modern titles, and connecting to Star Wars when they really shouldn't.
No, they shouldn't. It should be more in the spirit of Star Wars. I
Yeah,
miss
there
the
should be
opening
some
crawl.
originality. Yeah.
I miss chapters. I miss, like, get in one paragraph in Star Wars. You know how much backstory is told in one
Mhm.
paragraph? That saved that movie. And it was the writing of that was helped by John Milius in the early showings. And the opening crawl was very different and convoluted. Lucas wanted to do something to kind of like explain it. It's so well done. And yeah, it's great. That opening crawl, this, you know, you could have seen there was like these opening paragraphs, but it really didn't tell you much.